teaching order of mainstream was 58 hours. 58 hours. Now, with 2 hour sessions, what is that, about 7 months? If you're going once a week, that's a long time to commit to classes. Now, put on top of that, down at the bottom of this teaching program that they had, it basically said that we expect you to teach these and have the dancers able to do them from a variety of positions, more than one position or formation or arrangement. Boy, I'll tell you what, your 6-shooter pistol just went to an AR-15. Just went way out there. Too much to teach, too much to remember. Okay, now this next one, I am at least partially responsible for it because I was the chairperson of the committee for a number of years. They were called quarterly selections. That's where I would sit down and everybody send me all of their new movements, and I'd pick one out that I thought everybody would like. I'd write up a little bit of material to it, send it out to all the callers for the next 3 months. Every caller was supposed to use that as an experimental movement during the dance and teach it before they call it at every dance. And then after 3 months, drop it, get rid of it. Well, it was a good idea. The only problem is some of the material was good enough that they didn't want to drop it. They liked it, so they kept it. So what happened? Plus, all of a sudden we had plus. So we got mainstream plus. Eventually we had too many movements per plus, so they split it into +1 and +2. So then we had mainstream +1, +2, and then advanced and everything beyond that. Okay, well, that was a problem. And if, of all the things the Color Lab did that was very, very good, I'm not really crazy with some of those, all right? I think the reason I'm saying this is because we're talking about the state of the activity and why it was going downhill even before the pandemic. And it has been going downhill for literally decades. Color Lab did come out with caller and teachers training manuals. Those are very good. Carrying on. How's my time going, Gene? Okay. What was happening in the activity before the pandemic?
About 10 minutes, Daryl.
Okay. What was happening before the pandemic wasn't that bad. Just didn't lend itself well to growth. And unfortunately, it didn't grow. We fall in love with names. Do you ever think about that? What is mainstream other than just a collection of names for particular movements? You could put anything in mainstream and it would still be mainstream. You can put anything in basic and it'd still be basic, wouldn't it? You ever had two clubs that wouldn't merge, though it would have been good for them because neither one of them was willing to give up their name? I mean, it seems kind of dumb. What we need to have is movements in an entry-level program that is designed for people who don't know how to dance yet and need to get experience at it. Can we learn from our past? Lord, I hope so. If we don't, they're not going to be a square dance activity. How can we make a positive from the negative of the pandemic? Well, let's carry on. First, don't blame the pandemic. Pandemic is going to, if anything, and this is an attitude thing, gang. If you don't have the right attitude, you're not going to make any of it work anyway. Don't say, oh, gee, it's killing us off. We'll never get them back. Well, there's still people out there that want to dance, people that have never tried square dancing. Let's get them. You have a chance to put something together that the non-dancing public is going to enjoy. That way you'll have something that you can promote and market, get them in. Now, the biggest problem is how you're going to keep them, because what we were doing before wasn't working. Now, I know when I retired from the full-time marathon of calling that I was doing, I went back to Portland, Oregon, and got myself a real club, just like most of you have, and started teaching classes, had some pretty good sized classes. And the new dancers got through and they were all having a darn good time. So they joined the club. And that was really, really good. The club was growing. But I began to notice that 6 months, a year later, very few of those people were there. And I started to wonder why. And there was so much expected of those new people that they just figured it was easier to drop out than to continue. It just was too darn hard. They made it through the classes, but you need to realize that new dancers don't feel comfortable going to dances, or very few of them do, until about 2 years of good experience. Then they can go and they feel fairly comfortable. And during that time, if you're in a mainstream area like I was, they're trying to pull them into plus, right? Because plus groups need people just as badly as the club people do. It's just something that we've got to fix. We've got to fix it. What can we do? Talk. Well, that's what you're going to be doing here pretty quick. I'm doing all the talking right now, so I get to give my opinions. You can give yours here very shortly. Work together and find something to answer the need. What's the need? People. People need people. We need people. Without people, us poor callers and cuers have no audience. It's up to us. What can we do differently after the pandemic? What can we change? Change our image? Been trying to do that for a long time. That's going to be tough. We need all of the information we can get on that, all of the ideas you can come up with and share with everybody else. We need that, because the image that most people have about square dancing is what little bit they had in grammar school, or what they see in a movie someplace, and it does look hokey. It doesn't give any impression at all that you would really want people to have. The music. I think the music has changed considerably. I think music pretty well keeps up with now square dancing. If you think rap needs to be in there, we've been doing that for years. We call it patter. That's all patter is rap. It's something done rhythmically that gives a message. What's the difference? Dress code. That's been relaxed. Bob Osgood of Sets in Order magazine was a friend of mine. And I asked him one time, I said, why a dress code? Because he was pretty much responsible for it through Sets in Order. He said, well, he says, I have to put out a magazine and the advertisers pay for it. And those people selling square dance clothes are part of my advertising. That's what he told me. So I got it from the horse's mouth. Programs. All right. Now we got down to the part that really makes sense. The programs have been a problem. Not, the names of the program have been a problem partially because nobody wants to be a basic dancer, do they? And if you're a mainstream dancer, you're probably being drug into plus because there's somebody saying, hey, if you like what you're doing now, you're going to love Load the Boat. And they try to drag you up there. If you're in a plus area, it's even worse for you than it is for the mainstream areas, because you've got half again as long to get the people through classes just to get them up to dance level. And everything, gang, absolutely everything is geared towards levels. Go from basic to mainstream to plus to A1 to A2 to C1 challenge. It's and we're continually trying to prepare the dancers for the next thing. Even at advanced level, the basic movements, the mainstream movements, you have to be very careful that you teach them exactly the right way with the right words. Don't vary anything because you owe it to the advanced program to have these people ready for when they get up there. Now, that's just the truth of the situation. We can fix that. We can fix that. We can fix it all. We can change it. The activity belongs to us. But us has to take hold of the thing and make it what will work, because what we did before stopped working. It was growing up until we got so good at calling and putting stuff together that the only callers that made it through and stayed with it were the ones that were capable of doing what we were doing. Now, understand, the people that put these lists together and the programs together to begin with were not your average everyday caller. They just weren't. They were the cream of the crop. They were the ones that knew all the stuff better than anybody else. And they're also the ones that couldn't understand why everybody else couldn't get it. It's too hard. Too hard to become a caller, too hard to become a dancer. Now, if you can solve those two problems, not bad at all. Not bad at all. We can handle it. If you haven't heard of social square dancing yet, you will. It's probably the most popular possible solution. Maybe not the only one, but it's the one that seems to make the most sense to me. It's a program, a combination of basic and mainstream moves with a teaching projection of 15 weeks, complete with material to call. It's an attitude shift. The program itself is an attitude shift away from choreography towards showmanship, presentation, and social interaction. Make those clubs something more than a place to go dance. Provides a place in square dancing for people that just want to have a fun evening with friends without being challenged all night long. That's what we need. That's what we had to begin with. That's what we lost along the way. And it didn't happen overnight, and nobody did it intentionally. It just flat happened. Is that something we can fix? I think so. I think so. And if I didn't think so, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now. You can do it. We can do it. But I think if we don't go for the social square dance, you'll see it at SSD frequently. If we don't go for that, we need to do something very similar to it. Now, I'd be willing to bet, at least that your mainstream program level dancers, and we'll call it a level because it is a level. That's what we do these days. Don't like to call it that, but it is. At mainstream level, I'll bet you can call dances on this social square dancing program, and the dancers will never know that they're not getting the very small handful of movements that's been moved out of mainstream. It's not a basic program. It's not a mainstream program. It's got scoot backs and circular. It's got stuff in it there that is definitely mainstream and it's going to make it half tag, or all of those kind of things. And you need to take a look at the actual list of movements. It's amazing how much is in it. But we can do that. And my suggestion is get rid of mainstream altogether. Mainstream is nothing but a name. In other words, don't take social square dancing and name it mainstream. Don't think it's a good idea. I think we need to make major change in order to take care of it. We've got good reason to make that change. Get rid of mainstream, put in the social square dancing, and just call it square dancing, period. And everything beyond that is either advanced or challenged. There's no plus. No plus. Just go from one to the next. And we'll go back to more or less what we had when the activity was in a state of growth. Because back then, what I heard from, now I was calling advance and challenge myself. And what I heard from the mainstream callers was, yeah, they're just taking our best dancers away from us. And we were. Heck, I made my living off from plus level calling for a good number of years. So I know exactly what they're talking about. We don't need it at that entry level. We need something that we can get through. Can we do it? Darn right we can do it. But we have to be willing to give up something to get it done. With that, I'm going to shut up, and I have no doubt that I've ruffled some feathers out there, and you can go ahead and either ask tough questions or throw darts.